Everybody. Oh, but I don't have a TV, so I don't even know what's going on. Sorry. Good evening. I'm going to be calling our regular meeting to order. It is June 9th, and we're a regular meeting, and we are all here present, all council members. So, Judy, roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Commendatore.
Here.
Vice Mayor Klovstad.
Here.
Mayor Pallavi.
Here.
Councilmember Abrams.
Here.
Councilmember Tierman.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And because we are all back here and it has been almost 3 months, we're all going to rise and we will do a Pledge of Allegiance. So all of you streaming and watching at home, please join us. If you choose not to rise, that's okay, but join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Probably have to leave a mic on so they hear us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It felt good to do that once again. With that, we are going to open public comment. We have a couple of different ways that we're taking public comment for this meeting. Specifically, you can email any public comments to Truckee@townoftruckee.com, or you can leave us a voicemail or a text at 530-428-6555. Public comment is now open for any item not on tonight's agenda, and just for everybody streaming and tuning in, I know we have a good audience, and I thank you all for joining us. We are not going to be taking action nor replying to any of the public comments that come in unless there is council direction to do so. So we're just going to hear the public comments, and they're just going to come in one after another. And I'll just ask everybody to take some notes, and if there's anything you'd like to follow up on afterwards, we can do that, okay? So with that, public comment is open, and I'm going to hand it over to Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor Pallavi. The first public comment is from Mark Zimring. As a Truckee citizen, I request each council member to go on record at this meeting stating whether they believe that Chief Leftwich can continue to effectively serve in his role as chief of the town Truckee Police, given his recent expression of offensive, inaccurate, and dangerous views and failure through follow-up emails, an interview with the Sierra Sun, and last night's listening session to demonstrate that he actually understands the issue at play and damage he's done, or that he has the professional demeanor and personal values necessary to rise to the occasion this moment demands of us. That's the end of the public comment from Mark Zimring. The second public comment is from an email address that doesn't depict the name. It is time second homeowners should be allowed to visit their properties. South Lake Tahoe allows that already since Memorial Day. There seems to be no effect on new COVID-19 cases there. We need to be able to check on our properties and maintain them properly. 3 months is too long. That's the end of that public comment. And I'm just checking the inbox currently for any new public comment through Truckee@townoftruckee.com. So I believe this first public comment does not depict a name. Despite the deliberate cherry picking that took place last night with public comment, I think the public deserves to hear from Police Chief Leftwich about his position on a person's guilt or innocence before a trial takes place. This is a constitutional issue. Please don't sweep this under the rug. People are paying attention and care. And that is the only other public comment I see at this time.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. We're going to close public comment at this time. Just a couple of comments there. We are going to talk about, we'll have a report out of the town hall at some point. And then as far as the second homeowner issue, nobody in the town of Truckee is prohibiting anybody from visiting their second home. So I'm just clarify that, though there is still the statewide and the governor's stay-at-home order, which is still in place. So that is answers to those. Moving along to presentations. We have one presentation this evening. It is a proclamation for Pride Month, and I am going to read that. Whereas lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer and questioning Pride Month is celebrated each year in the month of June to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan. And whereas the purpose of Pride Month is to recognize the impact that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals have had on history locally, nationally, and internationally. And whereas this year marks the 50th anniversary of the annual LGBTQ Pride traditions, so from our separate homes we stand together with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer town of Truckee as they declare their pride in who they are and whom they love. And whereas, while there has been remarkable progress towards acceptance and equality in recent years, members of the LGBTQ community in the United States and around the world still face an unacceptable level of discrimination and violence. Whereas we must protect and safeguard the LGBTQ community in order to continue the progress. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor of the town of Truckee, does that on this ninth day of June 2020, Truckee's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning Pride Month, and encourages all community residents to embrace tolerance wherever possible and to celebrate our great diversity with our LGBTQ friends and neighbors. Done this 9th day of June 2020. With that, are there any other comments from council members on the presentation or proclamation that was made this month? I'll go this way first. No? Great. Open this to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Not for this. Great. Closing public comment. And we will move to our consent calendar. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 items on consent this evening. We have the minutes from our May 12th and 26th meeting. We have the establishment of the fiscal year 2021 GAN appropriations. We have a cooperative agreement with the Truckee Fire Protection District to execute a wildland fire contract with CAL FIRE. We are adopting a statement of investment policy for the 2021 fiscal year. 6.5, Frischman Hollow 2 easement abandonment. 6.6, another easement abandonment on 10108 James Avenue. And 6.7, job classification list effective for fiscal year 2021. Would any member of council like to pull anything from consent? No. Any member of staff? Seeing none. Any member of the public? Do we have any public? Nope. Sarah? No? No public. Thank you. And with that, Councilmember Abrams, would you like to move our consent calendar?
I move the consent calendar.
I'll second.
And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I know. Consent passes. I maybe should clarify that for those who are streaming and maybe not watching online, just so there's a little clarification as we move forward. So all 5 council members are here present. We also have our staff present. There is no public present at this time for anybody just listening and not watching. With that, let's move on to item 7.1. This is our COVID update, and Jeff is going to start us off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, and then I'll turn it over to Chief Leftwich, and Kim, are you? No, just Chief and I. So a couple items of importance on the COVID update front. The first one I'll talk about is the testing center. I think it's important to the community where many people are getting tested, still very important. The testing center in Kings Beach, which is a Placer County facility technically run by the federal government through the state, has moved. It served obviously a lot of residents from our area. It's moved into Truckee, and it is across the street from the hospital. And the reason it was moved is it was getting relatively low use. The state wants to see approximately 50 tests per day. It was not reaching that level, and the concern was they didn't want to lose that testing facility, and we clearly don't. It was moved to the old Gateway Center here in Truckee at 10990 Donner Pass Road. It is exactly the same configuration as it was at Kings Beach, meaning it is free. It's federally funded, essentially, run through the state and by the state. You do need to register ahead of time, so you need an appointment. And it's still technically a Placer County, quote, facility, but here it is in Nevada County. But if you're a Nevada County resident, your numbers, either positive or otherwise, or tested, will be counted in Nevada County. And if you're from out of the area, you're counted wherever you're a resident in. So that's kind of a message more to community, perhaps, than council, but I think it's an important one because we want to keep the testing going. Second item is the Nevada County Relief Fund. And this is not the town of Truckee's fund. This is not the Sierra Resiliency Fund, to which you all invested early on. This one is one that Nevada County developed. Nevada County funded part of it. That is the county itself. And then they went and got many substantial donations and substantial support from a number of places. They've given their first round of grants, $210,000. These are mini grants, essentially, sort of $2,000 to $5,000 kind of range. And they gave them all over the county. So I think the message here is Truckee got a number of businesses that got these grants, and these are just kind of trying to get through the COVID time. And but Truckee did not actually, East County and Truckee did not actually invest directly. Obviously, through our county taxes, we invested sort of indirectly in part of this fund. But businesses such as Dark Horse Coffee Roasters, Brad Henry Pottery, Jack and Emmy, Alpenflow Studios, Coop 61, I'm probably going to leave a few out, and I apologize, the Station Eatery, got these mini grants. We're very pleased with that, and we want to keep this fund going, and just wanted to let you know. So this is one of several of these really important efforts to keep business moving or bring them back and recover now that we're opening into stage 2, 3. That brings me to my last item, and one that relates to your item on here, and that is the stage 2/3 reopening kind of process. Where is it? As you know, you have a letter in which we are urging, particularly lodging and camping, to be open, and we're urging the state and Nevada County Public Health to push that along. It appears highly, highly likely that that is already happening. I think most of you saw, council members, and I think many community members saw on June 5th or 4th, the state issued guidance for many different business types and sectors that weren't either open at all or fully open, including campgrounds, RV parks, hotels, additional restaurants and bars, fitness centers, day camps, etc. There's a complete list on the Nevada County website, but essentially those are expected to be allowed to be open Friday, obviously open with substantial limitations, like all the openings we've seen in stage 2 and anything in stage 3, physical distancing, testing of employee symptoms, face coverings, all of the things that the state's been recommending. Each specific business sector has these long lists. So, but I think it's good news. I think it does exactly what we're hoping in that letter. Council can discuss the letter, whether you still want to send it or not. That'll be your choice to do. But I think it's important to recognize that as of now, as of this moment, I don't believe the Nevada County Public Health Officer's actually issued his official a statement about the guidance, but all indications are that it will be a positive statement. There may be some limitations or some restraints put on it because the county health officer is allowed to do that. So think, a good news item, and it's doing where you all have been directing us to try to push them ahead. So thanks. And Chief, maybe a little bit about the EOC and where we are there.
Sure. So quickly on the EOC, we've moved to more of a virtual format. So we're pretty much demobilized in that area, as well as Nevada counties. So there'll obviously be elements of that carry on with regards to finance and recovery. And we still have some logistical support through our emergency services coordinator, Bob Womack. But the room and the actual monitoring and the situation reports are not being issued at the same level that they were. For this evening, I just compiled the stats. It doesn't seem like we've really talked about COVID in a while. And although there's some very positive things out there, there's no doubt that it's still an issue for the state and likely the nation. You've heard me talk before about the RT value. That's the transmission value. The goal there is to stay below 1. Last time I was before council, I reported that as 0.94. We're up to 0.99, so we're right on the cusp of being at 1. Before that becomes too concerning, as we've talked about many times before, but more for the public that's listening, a lot of that has to do with testing likely, and so those numbers are going to be driven up. I'm speculating on that, but it doesn't seem like the state numbers are increasing with any kind of exponential magnitude or growth. They seem to be still growing in some regard. So with that, in California, we're at about 134,000 cases. We're still at about 2,000 a day, or just over 2,000 a day, or 1.7% growth throughout the state. There's 4,700 deaths, roughly, up 44 this last day. Testing is good news. We're almost to 2.5 million tests that have been conducted, and the state is holding strong at around 50 to 55,000 tests a day. So that's, if you go back a couple weeks, or, well, actually probably over months now, I think I said test more to know more, and the state's held its promise with regards to that. Of the 2.5 million, Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Diego are a tremendous boost. They have quite a few of those cases, and I'm sorry, not of the 2.5 million of the 134,000 cases, 85.5 thousand of those are just in Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Diego. So when you look at the Northern California counties, it's certainly less, but obviously still concerning. The big one goes back to the original push. We didn't want to overwhelm our hospitals. Of the 386 hospitals that report, 73,867 beds are available, of which 3,257 are being occupied with inpatients. So that's a great number to have. We have plenty of hospital capacity should we start to see a spike. More locally in Nevada County, we have 50 cases now, still 1 death. 38 of those are in East County, 12 are in West County, and 6 are considered active cases. And we're up to 3,815 cases in Nevada County. Tests, sorry. Test cases, tests, yes. Tomato, tomato. I'm sorry. 3,815 tests in Nevada County. In the U.S., right about 2 million cases with 111,000 deaths. And in Nevada County, we saw a huge period of time between April 28th and June 1st where we didn't have any cases. And then just after June 1st, we picked up a couple, and then a few more between the 3rd and the 5th of June. Demographics-wise, it's still very heavily in the Latino community, much more so, 55% compared to the Anglo or the white community at 19%. So there's obviously some data to be crunched there and try and figure out what the implications of that are. And then as far as gender, it's still evenly split. It's non-discriminatory. It's 50-50 for the most part. So those are the stats that I had. One other thing with regards to the testing site that Jeff mentioned, we are going to be releasing a comms publish in the morning to get that new location and the ability to sign up for that testing out to the public, so that we try and keep as many people going to that as possible. So look for that post tomorrow. That's all I had.
And maybe Chief or Jeff or one of you, I know I've been asking this question all day, but just so we know that there is no clarification, can you at least give us the official line on how the governor's stay-at-home order works alongside the opening of campgrounds and lodging and other tourist-serving amenities.
I'll take a stab at it, unless, Andy, you've got a precise stab. Okay. It's still a little murky. The guidance is that we talked about, it has been issued by the state, and it does indicate all the things that camping, lodging, RV, campgrounds, things like that have to or need to adhere to in order to be open. They are allowed to be open for a number of weeks now. As you know, they've been allowed to be open for business-related activities related to open businesses. Now there are many more open businesses, so they're obviously allowed to take guests from a larger array of businesses. The last we heard, and it is, I did get an email, so it's I can't confirm it, that the state may be issuing some additional guidance about that very thing, about this question of travel. But leisure and recreational travel are still not supposed to be allowed. The assumption is, or the assumption of what's going to be said is, don't travel too far. So if that is murky, what that means is inter-county travel, no problem. Can you go between counties? Well, obviously, if you're near Placer County the way we are, you don't have to go too far to go from one county to the other. So a little bit unclear yet. We're hoping the state would clarify that. But from if I were in the lodging industry, I would say that I'm ready to open. I should open. I may have to be a little bit careful with certain guests until we know the full parameters. But sorry for the incomplete, but that's how this has been for a while.
And I knew that was coming. I just wanted that for the record, because I've been asking that question all day to 12 different people, and any other staff reports on this topic? Kim, did you want anything? No. Dan, Danielle, Andy? Nope. All good. Any other council member questions? So I'm just going to open public comment right now, as we have been in the past. We'll come back to public comment in just a moment. I know we've received some. Just so everybody knows, Truckee at townoftruckee.com, or you can call or text to, how did I lose that number already? 530-428-6555. We'll start with Councilmember Tierman if you have any questions for staff. No. Jessica?
I have one. I'm just curious. I don't know if we have an answer for it or not, but we were down to 0 cases for quite a while, and then now we're back up to 5 or 6 active cases, and they seem to appear right after the busy Memorial Day weekend. Is there any correlation to the people visiting town and the additional cases? Do we know anything about that, and if it's related and something that maybe we need to be staying aware of or keeping an eye on?
I definitely think that the Memorial Day weekend is something that we need to look at more on a national or a state level. It does not appear from the limited information that we've received, and I want to be very cautious to maintain the confidentiality of those that are the 6 active cases, but it does not appear that those are related to travel or the Memorial Day weekend, and a substantive part of those were a related cluster of people.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Commendatore, any questions?
Just one quick question, Chief. You said the numbers from breakout from a group. I thought you said 55 and 19, which doesn't quite equal 100, so I'm not sure if I missed something or misunderstood between Latino and Anglo.
For the Nevada County numbers?
Yeah, I think that's what you were referring to.
50 cases.
No. In our Latino community versus Anglo community versus...
Well, there's a variety of other ethnicities that I didn't cover.
Right.
Yeah. But I can go through those.
No. But I heard the right number. 55 is what you said?
55%
and
are
then 19
in,
versus Anglo. And then the rest is...
Yes, of the positive cases, 55%. The largest number is in the Latino community. The next largest is white community, which is 19%. The African American was 5, and then there's a variety of others that are listed, but the most predominant was Latino communities throughout the state of California.
Vice Mayor Klofstad.
I just want to note how many letters and notes that we've received about how they're preparing to reopen, how our businesses are repairing. And I want to commend them. I think they've really thought this through. They've really gone above and beyond necessary precautions, and I'm really proud to see how serious our community is taking this in protecting their own employees, protecting us, and protecting the visitors that we know are going to come. So just thanks to everybody for that, and for staff in supporting them getting there, because I know you guys have fielded an enormous amount of questions in order for these community members and businesses to get to where they are.
Great. Without any further questions, public comment is now open. If you have anything, please send it in. We did get, am I reading these? Are we going to read each one of these, or you want me to summarize them? You want to summarize them?
We were
You're
not
good.
going to read each one individually
Great.
because we received a little over 10.
Okay.
But
And they're
in
all-
support of the letter in item 7.1, we had support from Colleen Dalton, Hampton Inn, Paradigm 8, Christine Henkel, Tahoe Mountain Properties, Loch Levin Lodge, Cedar House, Donner Lake Inn, Bed and Breakfast, Tahoe Exclusive Vacation Rentals, and Melanie Maharshand. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. So we had support letters from those individual and entities.
Great. Thank you. And those are all lodging properties in town.
I think that also noted, those letters also included a lot of detail about their safety precautions for reopening their plans.
And those did all come in ahead of time, so hopefully everybody had a chance to see them. Have we gotten anything that we have not seen?
Just the email from Colleen Dalton with the attachment from Harry Weiss.
Great. Thank you. With that, I will close public comment on item 7.1 and maybe bring it back to council. I'll just start us off. I don't believe we need to proceed with taking action on this letter at this time. As with all things COVID over the past 3 months, every time we do something, it changes by the time we're ready to actually do it. So thank you for Jeff and Andy for working on that over time. And unless anybody feels differently and would like to take action on it, at the very least, I'll take that off our plate, and we can have any other deliberation that we want. Going back over to the public comment side.
I apologize.
That's
There were
okay.
two that came
Oh, okay. Go
in. It
ahead.
is from Jim Winterberger
Okay.
and Matt Miller.
Okay. Are they both of the same tones as the previous ones?
One is more of a question as to how we enforce the visitors that are coming.
So will you just read that one in
Sure.
full? Thank you.
From Matt Miller, public comment, does the Truckee Police enforce these visitor, not who does? That's the end of the comment.
And Mr. Winterberger's?
And it was in support of item 7.1, the reopening.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment is now closed again. Thank you. And we're very flexible on that with this new technology that we're using, so that's okay. But it's officially closed. So again, that's just where I sit. I think we've heard from all of our lodging properties. We do have good news regarding phase 3 on the horizon. So I'm not sure that we need to take action on that. And then any other deliberation or conversation that anybody would like to add, please do so. And we'll start with you, Councilmember Tierman.
Thank you, Mayor. Question. So the action by Nevada County, is that imminent? Is that tomorrow? Do we know for sure? And yeah, so.
I don't know. It should be soon, though. I mean, it obviously has to happen before Friday, or it gets in kind of an awkward timeline. Placer County's public health director, I believe, did take an action and made a statement. May have been over the weekend or earlier. There was quite a bit to review, and I know that these public health officers, Dr. Cutler, ours, really looks at these things carefully because it's it's very technical, kind of, is this the right medical precautions? But yeah, it should be imminent.
Okay. So I guess I'll sort of ask an open question for council to think about. What would the harm be in sending a letter of support? We have heard from a number of in our lodging community. They've suffered quite a bit, maybe more so than any other segment in our community business-wise, and I agree with Vice Mayor Klostad. It was very heartening to hear about the seriousness with which the lodging community is taking this and the precautionary measures that they're prepared to take as well. Very, very supportive of that. And part of me thinks, why not send in a letter? So.
I feel the same way, that even if it's just taking action to demonstrate a message or to share our compassion with the lodging industry here, that if it's already been drafted or if it's ready to send out, that it can't hurt anything to send it. It might take a little bit of extra effort, but I think that would be worth it just to send.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Commendatore?
I'm in total concurrence. I think we should send it.
And you can say anything else you want, not just on the letter, too. If there was anything else you wanted to add.
Assuming you're still prepared to sign it.
Of course, yeah.
There was some comment, I think it came from, in some of the questions that came up, that it might cause some confusion. Can somebody elaborate on that? Jeff?
Yeah, if I could just, a clarifying, I think, question or comment. The letter, as Mayor pointed out, was written prior to the direction coming out. If the council is willing to give the town attorney, who mostly did all the hard work, and perhaps the town manager, kind of the leeway to retool the letter a little bit to recognize the change and be more in the constructive, because we were asking, the letter asked fairly hard, you need to do this. The concern was it would cause confusion now. He said, well, we've done it. What are you telling us? I think if we say we are very supportive of this action, we want it to keep moving, something of that sort. If you would give us a little leeway to rewrite that, and then I think it'd make a lot of sense.
I would be comfortable with that if everybody else is. I want us to solidify the decision, not to confuse it.
I would say that I agree. And I'd also say time is of the essence. So I don't want to go into a major rewrite. I just pare it down, get it out, and be done and move forward.
Yeah, I envision the way we crafted it was a little bit more proactive, and I think this would mostly be a letter to probably the county at this point, to say something along the lines of, hey, we support this decision, so as they're deliberating and when it comes to the Board of Supervisors, they know where we're at. So it'd be a little bit softer, more just saying, hey, we're ready, we're looking out for our businesses, and we suggest and we strongly support Nevada County attestation to phase 3 guidelines, basically something very simple and more precise. And then I just want to make sure to send out a reminder while we're up here, and just for everybody to realize that we are, I think the chief said it best, and maybe we should continue to say it and echo it, but we're all sitting here, we're 6 feet apart here, so all of the precautions that we have been taking, we need to continue to take, set good examples for the community, for the visitors, wear face coverings when appropriate, maintain distance, continue on all of these hygiene protocols. And again, I know we've said it in previous meetings, but we'll continue to say it. Also, tone that patience level up a couple notches as well as you're out and about, to make sure that everybody sort of is adapting. People are making their own choices, and that's totally fine. But I think just so the community hears it one more time, so that we all up here continue to remind ourselves. But there are going to be lines sometimes. The capacity's down in restaurants. It just takes a little bit longer to do a lot of stuff. So just make sure to make sure you're practicing as much patience as possible while you're out and about, and starting to take advantage of some of the opportunities that haven't been open for the past 3 months or so. So with that, it sounds like what we're going to do is we're going to take action. And Councilmember Tierman, maybe you could lead us off with a motion of action here that just slightly adjusts the goals of that letter, and maybe also addresses it a little bit more to the county as well.
Okay, I move that we revise the letter as required to to recognize the imminent order that will be coming from Nevada County and address the letter directly to the county. Should we copy the state or yeah, right, with maybe a copy to the state?
A second.
And we're now need to do a roll call. All in favor? Did you want me to do something, Judy, before we take action on this?
Well, we were just made aware that there's like voice comments that came in after you closed public comments,
We probably should. So let's just quickly pause. So there isn't, do we need to close the motion? Sorry, or can we just leave it open for right now? Okay, so let's leave the motion for right now. I apologize. And let's have one more public comment are we playing the iPad like we did last night, or are you just going to read it?
Well, there's one voice public comment. There's
Okay.
one from Colleen Dalton.
Okay, go for it.
There's 4 different text messages.
One for 3 minutes. As much as you can fit in 3 minutes. Timer on. Or your microphone. Don't worry about the timer. Yeah. And make sure you put your microphone on.
Okay, it's not playing her voicemail message. So her first is request that council consider a letter to Dr. Ken Cutler urging Nevada County reopen alongside Placer County. And the third text message from Colleen Dalton is off the text record. This is because we do not know how we will go, and town council is being asked to help. And the latter message here is a letter from Truckee-Town Council could move him over the fence. If he is hesitating, we should not assume he is all in. End comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment is closed for the 3rd time. That's okay. And so it sounds like we've taken that into consideration. We have a motion on the table. It has been seconded. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Motion passes. Thank you. Sorry, now it's even weirder having everybody back. Got so used to it. We're going to move into item 7.2, and this is the Sierra Village note payoff coming from Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am here with what we think is very good news, which we could all probably use. So the background on this is that the Sierra Village apartment complex is, I think it's 72-ish units. It's over off of Brockway Road. It's about 20 years old, and the town helped it get constructed using some loan funds that we got from the state of California. So we've been holding a note on that ever since. The note is set up so that we only get paid if there are any kind of net revenues from the project, and there never are. So we haven't seen any money, and under current circumstances wouldn't see any money at all until 2031. We've been talking to the ownership group about doing some work to fix the property up. This is an affordable project, I should mention, so it provides some badly needed affordable housing in Truckee. And as part of the conversations about the work that we wanted them to do to kind of fix up the property, they said, hey, could we buy out the loan? Could we pay you back now instead of in 2031? So we had a lot of back and forth with them because, of course, we'd have to take something less than what we would get in 2031 if we wanted to let them buy us out now. But we ended up on a number of $1.4 million, which is something less than we're owed now if they decided to pay us off. But in exchange for giving them a bit of a discount, we would get some money in. It's restricted. We can only use it to help affordable housing, but I'm sure we can find a way to use that since housing is a council priority. And they've also agreed to a pretty aggressive schedule for doing a bunch of rehab work on the units. So a bunch of energy efficient appliances, new countertops and cabinets where those are needed, some paint, just basically freshening the units up and making them nice, as well as yielding better energy efficiency and water efficiency. So that's kind of what we've been kicking around with the ownership group. We have finally gotten to a place where I think we as staff support this. We think it's a good deal for the town. We think it's good for the community. We just think it's a good deal all the way around. And I should point out also that letting them repay us is not going to affect the affordability. The affordability covenants on that project will remain in effect for exactly as long as they would have otherwise. This doesn't affect that at all. So what we get out of this is $1.4 million in affordable housing dollars and better living conditions for the people that live there.
Thanks so much, Andy. That is good news. With that, again, I'm going to open public comment. Truckee at townoftruckee.com, voice or text 530-428-6555. And we will come to council for any questions, starting Councilmember Commendatore. Vice Mayor?
What's the mechanism for? We good? Okay. What's the mechanism for understanding what of these improvements is being made and how deep are they going? And when does that have to happen? Like they can, I just want to know what the commitment is and the time frame.
Yeah, that was, thanks for asking that question, because that was really important to us as we talked to them, because we didn't want some kind of vague idea that it will get to these in a few years. They did a property condition report, I think in 2018, identifying the state of every piece of that project, from the roof to water heaters to everything. And it had a timetable in it for when those things would need to be replaced. And in most cases, that report shows that things would have to be replaced in 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. So what they've proposed is that they would do HVAC repairs right away. Well, actually, I'll talk about the repairs and I'll talk about the timing. They'll do HVAC repairs. They'll do energy efficient water heaters in every unit. They'll do shower heads and faucets that are water efficient. They'll do paint and flooring in all units. And then for any unit that doesn't already have an energy efficient stove, refrigerator, and dishwasher, they'll add those. And then they will go through with a town representative and decide which units need new countertops and cabinets. So that's the scope of the work. And as for the timing, they requested today that we send our consultant, Joanne Anders, out there with them to walk through some of the units next week. They have committed to starting the work this summer. Then they'll have to probably take the winter off because they have to move people in and out. And they've agreed that whatever they don't finish this year, they will recommence by May 1st next year, and they'll finish it sometime between August and October next year. There's some variables at play because moving people out to do some of this work is a little bit tricky, and with COVID-19, they need to do everything very safely. So we did build in a little bit of wiggle room for them so that if tenants simply don't feel comfortable letting the ownership group in to do the work, that's fine. Nobody's going to force tenants who don't feel comfortable to have workers come in and do the work. So if that happens, then they get additional time for those units. But we worked with them, argued with them, really, if I'm being honest, on the timetable, and what we came up with we think is pretty aggressive.
And what's the recourse, or what's the connection to this agreement here?
Oh, well, I didn't include the agreement because it wasn't quite done at the time the agenda was published, but it is done now. It's set up so that if they miss their deadline, they have to pay us $1,000 a day for every day that they miss. And
like
then
liquidated
liquidated damages for 50 grand. And after that, if they're still not done, then we can seek specific performance, which is a contractual remedy, or I suppose we could sue them for breach of contract. But from what they've said, they really, really want to get this done. They've found contractors to do the work this summer, which is why they want to come and look at a representative sample of the units next week, because they want to get the people here. The agreement also does add some things that they didn't originally propose, but that I thought might be important. And that is that they have to pull building permits, which they would have to do for the water heaters. That seemed useful. And they have to make sure the work is done by California licensed contractors rather than, bootleg people that might not know what they're doing. So we feel pretty good that the work will be done on time and it'll be done properly.
Okay. I'm just curious why lighting would have been left off, energy efficient lighting.
They simply didn't propose it, but I would suspect that most of the lighting in those units is probably already fairly energy efficient. Just because in the last several years, as bulbs have been replaced, probably not replacing them with old incandescents. I mean, there's not available anymore.
Right. Well, if they need any, I'm pretty sure they know where they could get some free.
We will pass that along.
Yeah.
And I should point out, too, that in talking to our consultant, Joanne Anders, this week, she personally doesn't feel comfortable going out and physically walking the units with them as a way of protecting her health and also minimizing the exposure of the tenants to people trooping through their units. So I think what we're going to do, and the ownership group is okay with this, is they're going to walk through some units and they're going to take photos, share them with us and with Joanne, and we'll kind of make a joint determination as to, okay, if a countertop looks like that, it's okay. But if cabinets look like this, they need to be replaced. And I'm sure that we can reach agreement on that.
I'm sure you can. Thanks for going through that with me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Abrams, any questions?
Yeah, it all seems to make logical sense, but just to be really clear, if we don't move forward with this, then we wouldn't be receiving any funds for at least 11 years until 2031.
Probably. The only way we would get paid anything before 2031 is if the project kind of showed a paper profit, which it never has and probably never will. And the ownership group has actually said grumpily, we lose so much money in this project that we don't even know how we can keep going with it.
Right, I'm seeing that. So there's a potential that we might not get anything in 20.
I think they're posturing a little bit on that, but almost certainly we wouldn't get anything until 2031.
Okay. And if we did wait, how much would we get? Is that like a one-time lump sum in 2031? Is that?
It would be. We have a disagreement with them over how to calculate the interest because the way the loan was drafted in 20 years ago. So this also kind of heads off that fight. We've kind of traded snippy letters back and forth about how much we think they owe and how much they think they owe. But it would be a fair bit more than 1.4 million. I don't have the numbers handy.
Okay.
Yeah, so somewhere 3-ish.
And it's all, so this $1.4 million is funds that are set aside just to use for very low, very low income?
Low and very low. Basically anything under 80% of AMI is what we could use this on. So Freshman 2 potentially could be a candidate or other projects that might come in around town.
Okay.
Right, projects.
Okay, thank you.
I take it we were receiving monthly statements from the property to know that they're not making any money?
We get that. I don't know money.
Okay.
Figuring it out. We get that annually.
Annually?
Yes.
Okay.
We get a financial statement.
Okay, and then the original loan must have been interest-only payments or no principal?
The original $950,000 loan, yes, was interest payments, as Andy said.
Okay.
Based on a residual amount that never existed.
Okay. All right. All right, that's why that amount has grown so much over the years. Okay. And then just sort of maybe a related question, the investor, is the investor purchasing the property? Is that what's happening?
The investor owns the property. They are simply looking to get rid of this portion of their debt.
So they're refinancing, basically?
We're not aware of how they're getting
Okay.
the money to pay us back.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't have any further questions. So with that, public comment is open. Do we have any public comment?
Not for this item.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Public comment is now closed. And any deliberation or an action will go that direction, maybe? Councilmember Commendatore, any comments or anything at all?
My only comment is, although on paper it looks like we're getting the short end of the stick, I think in terms of what money is today versus what money is in 11 years and what we can do with it today at today's cost of things as well, and the unknown of what's going to happen or where this group may end up and get into an argument down to the end, and 11 years from now is just, it doesn't feel good. I think this is the right way to go, and I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the early repayment to the town from the existing Sierra Village loan.
I will second your motion, Councilmember Commendatore.
Wow, you guys are on it tonight. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Excellent efficiency, my fellow council members. I very much appreciate that. We're going to move on to item 7.3. Mr. Wilkins. This is a public hearing on parcel charges for town special service areas and the permanent road divisions. And put your mic on, Dan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I've got what should be a brief presentation on this. So this is something that every town council has done since the town has incorporated, which is to take annual action on the special assessments, which at this point in time affect properties in Tahoe-Donner and Glenshire. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to accept public input regarding parcel charges for Truckee Special Service Areas, that's what TSSA stands for, and permanent road divisions, which is what PRD stands for. To have a discussion on what you as the council believe are appropriate allowable uses of those funds, and to, once the top two items have been accomplished, to adopt a resolution setting parcel charges for the 2020/2021 fiscal year. So that would be the upcoming tax cycle. So the Tahoe-Donner parcels that are affected by this parcel charge, which are all parcels within the Tahoe-Donner subdivision. What it is for undeveloped lots, vacant properties, it's $70 per lot per year. For properties with a home on them, it's $95 per lot per year. So that's effectively a property tax surcharge that exists on those properties. Similarly, in Glenshire, Devonshire, undeveloped lots pay $23 a year. Developed lots pay $115 a year. And in Cambridge Estates, it's $84 a year undeveloped and $176 a year developed. And again, these special assessments date back to prior to the town's incorporation. The annual revenue from the special assessments is just shy of $600,000 in Tahoe-Donner and just shy of $180,000 in Glenshire. The expected uses of these funds and also historical uses are for enhanced maintenance in this year in Tahoe-Donner. Specifically, we've got a vegetation management project going on up there right now. So those are expenditures that are ongoing. We've got other projects that you will be considering when we do the 9-month remainder of the 2020 and 2021 fiscal year, other projects that you'd be considering as part of your budget that may or may not be funded, based on your direction as part of the budget process. The Tahoe-Donner Homeowners Association, who we check in with along with the Glenshire Homeowners Association prior to bringing this item to you, their board this year and last year was extremely focused and desiring of the town to initiate the Pioneer Trail Bridge Street Extension project. So that seems to be a high priority for them. They also continue to be focused and supportive of the vegetation management project that's going on up there. And there's a couple of projects that they're specifically not supportive of and not interested in, that are projects that are not necessarily in your current budget or fiscal planning. So what our recommendation is that the parcel charges in Tahoe Donner be maintained at the current levels. And in terms of the eligible uses of those funds, enhanced roadway maintenance is something that has been a staple of the use of these funds for a very long period of time. Enhanced drainage maintenance. And when I say enhanced, it's maintenance activities that are above and beyond what the town general fund service levels are on other roadways in town that don't have the benefit of the TSSA accounts. In prior years when we were doing slurry seals, a very straightforward example is townwide we would slurry seal streets on a 5-year interval. In Tahoe Donner and Glenshire we would do it on a 3-year interval. We have a scoring system for our roadways where when a road gets down to a certain score between 0 and 100, we overlay streets. Well, in Tahoe Donner and Glenshire, that score is a bit higher, recognizing that there's this additional funding source to augment the general fund baseline level of service. And then it's also at the request of the association in the past been used to help fund trail projects like the Trout Creek Trail that leads up to Tahoe Donner. The association was supportive of TSSA funds being used to fund a portion of that project, which effectively leveraged that project to be a higher priority than it may have otherwise been because there was matching funding effectively where other trail projects in town did not necessarily have the benefit of that matching funding. So those are the types of uses that these funds have been used for historically. There's a parking project out by Donner Lake. I won't get too deep into that. That's probably more of a budget conversation. There was an item last year where staff had suggested to the Tahoe Donner Association that we intended to recommend to you as the council that the TSSA 1 funds be eligible for use in funding transit, with the thinking at the time being that our transit budget did not have funding to provide a service to Tahoe Donner. If there was a desire by you as the council and the community to provide transit service to Tahoe Donner sometime in the future, that making the TSSA 1 funds eligible for transit services would provide that flexibility. So we had told the Tahoe Donner Association that we intended to make that recommendation to you. The association, when they considered that, was opposed to it. So when we came to you last year, we said we're not recommending the use of these funds for transit uses based on the association's input. You as the council considered that and ultimately made a decision to not budget funds, not actually use any of the money for transit services, but to make them eligible for transit services. So this year, we again got the request from the Tahoe Donner Association to not have these funds be eligible for transit services. We have about $580,000 that were collected this past year that are eligible for transit services as a result of your action last year. Staff's opinion is that there's value in making the money flexible. Because priorities and opinions change over time, and if there's flexibility to adapt to that quickly, that's a good thing. With that said, we're also, we try to be cognizant and respectful of, the opinions of especially a large HOA like Tahoe Donner. We don't always see eye to eye. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't on various issues. Our thought is that given that there's $580,000 in the bank that's currently eligible for transit and it will be there for a few years, there's no way we would spend that amount in a single year on transit if we were to initiate a service up there. So we don't think that there's a whole lot of practical value or need to continue to make more dollars eligible for transit in Tahoe-Donner, particularly being over the objection of the board up there, recognizing if you all decided to start a transit service up there, next fiscal year, the money that's in the bank could provide that service, and then to continue the service, you'd have to make that decision in subsequent years to make future year dollars available, if that makes sense. So I apologize for the kind of the long-winded explanation there, but it touches on some HOA-town relationship issues and some town priorities. I think what I'm saying is going along with the HOA's desire to not make it eligible for transit, I don't think impedes your ability to actually implement transit in the next year up there if you chose to do that. And we're not necessarily recommending that you do that. So I'll stop on that. With TSSA 5, unlike Tahoe-Donner last year, the Glenshire HOA was supportive of TSSA 5 funds being eligible for use on transit services. So our suggestion is we continue to leave that eligible. It's not a situation where we're doing something over the objection of one of our HOAs, that we continue to make it eligible for enhanced pavement and drainage maintenance in Glenshire and Devonshire. I'd also note that the Glenshire HOA informed us that they are interested in you as a council considering a vegetation management project, contract vegetation management project in Glenshire next year or the year after, similar to what you're currently doing in Tahoe-Donner. So that, again, would be a budget conversation, not necessarily something we need to get into tonight. So the recommendation for TSSA 5 is that we maintain the parcel charges in Glenshire, Devonshire at their current levels, and that the funds continue to be eligible for roadway, drainage, trail, and transit-related projects out there. We've got a number of other TSSAs and PRDs. These are ones that over a decade ago, the council reduced these parcel charges to $0. These are an order of magnitude smaller than the Glenshire TSSA. So if we were to reactivate the assessments in these districts to their fullest extent, they'd be like $10,000 a year in one of them, and $7,000 in another, and $16,000 in another. The order of magnitude is so limited that the ability to provide an enhanced level of maintenance is it's not practical, because some of these districts are literally like one street on one block in the middle of Olympic Heights, as an example, and it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to have that one street get slurry seal every 3 years instead of every 5 years, whereas Tahoe-Donner and Glenshire, it's the whole neighborhood, so it's a bit more pragmatic to show the direct benefit of those funds. So the recommendation is that those continue to be set at $0. So again, what we're suggesting is that you conduct the public hearing on the TSSAs and the permanent road divisions, that you remove transit as the eligible use in TSSA 1 for 2021, because it was made eligible last year, so we're suggesting that we not do it this year, and that we adopt Resolution 2020-39, setting assessments for the 2020/2021 fiscal year. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dan. And again, public comment, Truckee@townoftruckee.com or 530-428-6555. And any questions from council? Councilmember Tierman, any questions?
Yeah, Dan, what again was the amount you said was eligible for transit at Tahoe-Donner? You said
Around $580,000, which would have been the 1920 collection amount.
Okay, so just because funding is eligible, does that mean it's obligated to be used only for that use?
No, it can be used.
So it can be used for any use then, consistent with the framework of the TTSA.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think that was it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. If the transit service funding is just eligible and that creates more flexibility, why doesn't Tahoe-Donner want those funds to be eligible for transit?
A bit of speculation on my part. I think the Tahoe-Donner Board at the moment is highly focused on fire evacuation, emergency evacuation. I think that their concern is that with funds being eligible for transit, you as a council might put them into transit services, and they would prefer to see the money spent on other activities other than transit. And so I think the thinking is if it's not even an option because it's not eligible, then they've got a higher level of security that the funds won't be used for that purpose. I think that's what it is.
Vice Mayor Klofstad, any questions?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same line. What does it take to get it back if we say, okay, we're not going to collect for transportation this year? Do we just add it back in next year?
Yep.
Pretty much. Okay, so it's not like we need a vote from their board or anything.
No, these funds are controlled 100% by the town council. With that being said, they're collected wholly from within those subdivisions, so we try to get the opinions of at least the HOA board and introduce that into our thought process. But they don't govern the use of them in any way.
Thanks for sharing with us that Glenshire is interested in a vegetation management program. That's very encouraging. Do you think some of the other small TTSAs that we don't collect from now, would there be any benefit in contemplating whether or not they would want to look at vegetation management?
There could be. It's just they're so small that
It would take a lot of work.
the administrative effort may not be worth it.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're so limited geographically. Like I said, it's literally it's streets within small subdivisions as opposed to the entirety of subdivisions.
Okay. And then I understand at this point the Donner Beach parking area, that is kind of stagnant based on needing to have some more collaborative approach on it, but the Tahoe Donner Association is not against continuing that process, just that's not where they want to focus their money. They want that third exit out.
I'd say that's their main focus.
Yeah.
We have a local road safety plan, which is a study built into our budget, funded with grant funding for the next year. That would
continue the study.
Yeah, well, what it would do is it would look more holistically townwide at different areas where we could improve roadway safety and where we've got where we have current deficiencies. What that would allow is for this particular area and this particular project to be ranked against the rest of the roadway network in town so you can evaluate relative priority of that project as opposed to others. And I think that could be useful information both for you and for the Tahoe Donner Association in making a final decision on spending money on a project there or not. At the moment, they're not in favor of spending money at a project there, but it's based on not necessarily the complete volume of information that they probably need to be considering around that. Because as an example, if through the local road safety plan, it's identified that that's enough of a safety concern that we're going to get rid of the parking, because there's currently a lot of parking on the dirt. Mm-hmm. And if there were a decision that that parking needs to be eliminated, that could be done fairly inexpensively using general town resources, and we could solve the the issue that's there. However, that would significantly change the parking supply at that location.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there may be a determination that, well, gee, if the option here is no parking versus some parking, that may be a different conversation than if the conversation is, well, gee, we've got 130 spaces now and we'd hate to see it reduced at all. So I think it's going to depend on the dynamics of that conversation and the relative importance to us as the town of managing that conflict between bikers and cars better out there. And I think giving that a little bit of time for the information to develop in a more holistic fashion would be, I think, good for both the council and the association to make sure that they're making and everyone's making an educated decision on all of the information, which
Yeah,
is
'cause
only
that-
partial.
While that spot is a challenge, it is not our only challenge.
Right.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't even think about that. That's a big issue as a retired cyclist. So I do have a question regarding, I don't know why I didn't catch it before, but Cambridge Estates was on your list. And you're referring to Glenshire and Devonshire and their board involved in a lot of conversations. I would imagine that Cambridge probably has not really ever been involved, mostly because they're small and they just kind of are at the mercy of whatever Glenshire does.
That's probably a fair statement. Yeah, I
As a
will
past
say.
board member, I'd say
I will
it's
say
true.
though that and I'm glad you brought this up, and I should have pointed it out. So Cambridge Estates, we have not accepted all of the roadways in Cambridge Estates into the town-maintained network because there's a few of them that haven't met the revenue neutrality requirements. But we do plow the roads out there because of the fact that this TSSA is in effect.
Is that, are you sure that's not Elkhorn Ridge, the original Phase 5 of Cambridge Estates?
It is.
So they're two separate associations,
Yeah.
two different boards, two different groups.
Right.
Okay, well, we can take it offline, I'm just
Yeah.
curious. So-
Yeah. Now you got me thinking now whether we've got a hole in the
Right.
in what we got going on out there. So
Right.
because we've initially, and I'm dating myself, but a number of years ago, Cambridge Estates hadn't been accepted. We continued to plow out there because they were being charged the TSSA fee, so it was put towards the snow removal. We have been incrementally accepting streets in Cambridge Estates. I don't remember, as I sit here right now, whether we've accepted every single one or not.
Right.
And I can check on that.
And my recollection from when I was on the board, my street was the last street accepted.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure we are, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
But it is a good question, and it is something that, just to make sure we're taking care of everybody out there
Okay.
appropriately.
I had to Google where Cambridge Estates even was, so there you go. I'm just putting it out there. Can't know every single one. I don't have any questions. Did we have any public comment on this item? I think, Dan, you have to move, or you can see public comment, or?
No, I need to move.
Yeah.
And I will note there was, I think there were some letters from the Town Honor Association and the Glenshire Association in your package.
Yep. I think we saw those.
Again.
Yes.
Prior to me stepping away, there was none, but I need to check the email and voicemail. Give me just a moment. And the voicemail has none, so no public comment on this item.
Great. Closing public comment at this time. Any further deliberation? Do we want to talk more about the transit issue, or is everybody fairly comfortable with staff's recommendation, at least going forward for this year? Mostly seeing nodding heads. Then if there's anything anybody would like to add, go for it. If not, I'll entertain a motion. Looks like Councilmember Tierman is teared up unless anybody wants something to add.
Thank you, Dan, for the overview. I move that we adopt Resolution 2020-39, setting assessments for the 2020-2021 fiscal year for the TTSAs.
A second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dan. Item 7.4. Chief, Andy? Andy. It says it right here. Andy.
I'll get this started, and I'm sure that the chief will chime in when he gets back. So California State Parks approached us with a request that the council consider adopting an ordinance to keep motorized watercraft out of the outlet area of Donner Lake. If you've been over there, you know that State Parks usually stretches a buoy line across the outlet. And the intent has always been to try to keep motorized boats out of there because there are so many kayakers and stand-up paddleboarders and swimmers in there. But there's never actually been an enforceable way of citing people or keeping people out. It's just been, well, we're going to string up the buoy and hope for the best. So State Parks asked if we would consider supporting an ordinance to do that. The police department put together a draft, and I kind of polished it a little bit. And then in looking at the state of our boating ordinances, I realized that they were deeply weird and thought that we might as well do just a little bit of housekeeping on the ordinances while we're at it. There are a lot of things in there that might merit conversations at another time. There's some water quality stuff that might be a topic of discussion at another date, as is the entire boat rental permit program. But we wanted to bring this to you quickly so that we could get it in effect in time for the onslaught of summer boating season. This is set up as an urgency ordinance so that it can take effect right away so we can start protecting those swimmers and stand-up paddleboarders. As with any urgency ordinance, it would require a 4/5 vote of the council to pass it. We've received, as of prior to the meeting, 2 public comments from Lisa Holen and Yvette Durant, both really supporting this, and have traded messages with the owner and operator of Donner Lake Water Sports, who is also supportive of this as well. And Chief, do you have anything to add?
I think you captured it in the beginning. It's just there was a lot of complaints, and this is really in collaboration with State Parks' request of us.
Good. Good. Okay. Any questions? So public comment, again, Truckee@townoftruckee.com, 530-428-6555. And we'll start at this end with Councilmember Commendatory. Any questions? Commendatory, sorry.
No, I think Chief and I talked earlier, and I have all my questions answered.
Great. Vice Mayor Klofstad?
I did have a few questions that I chatted with Jeff about. It sounds like you guys might have connected. It's just a very interesting connection of the trigger for the prohibition of specific, more polluting motorized vehicles to be to the water quality, which we don't test. But the PUD does. And so I would like to bring a second round of evaluation of that forward, if possible, to at least understand what those triggers are, who's responsible for notifying whom, and how do we enforce those, and maybe just synchronize that better than what it seems to be at the moment.
I think that's a really good idea. And I think the way to start is for us to have more conversations at the staff level with the PUD. I did talk to the PUD's attorney about this just to let them know that we were doing this. And he told me, and he checked with operations staff and said that inlet is not currently being used. They don't have any immediate plans to use it again. One of the things I was thinking of when I said that the ordinance is a little bit weird is that it refers to what I think are probably some out-of-date emission standards for boats. The PUD might have different standards for drinking water testing. They would be the ones who'd be responsible. But I would suggest that you let the staff go have those conversations with the PUD and see if together we can think of any ways of modernizing this and making it reflect their needs and ours.
I think that would be wonderful. And in terms of what the urgency of this, this makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
Councilmember Abrams? No questions. Great. Any public comment other than the ones that we've received earlier?
Other than those two, no.
No.
Great. Do we need to read those two? They came in early enough that we don't traditionally read them, right? We
As
saw them.
far, I don't have the full text, but what I've been told, they just both really support the idea.
They do. Yes, correct. Great. Closing public comment on item 7.4 and any deliberation or a motion.
Well, I'll just say something just from a boating community. In a long time Truckee tradition that, particularly for 4th of July, but Truckee locals using Donner Lake Campground or Donner Campground and using the lake and using what's also known as referred to as a lagoon, parking boats and using it as a swim hole and kind of a different environment. And I spent a lot of years doing that when my kids were younger. It's sad that we're losing that, but after reflecting on kind of what Chief and I talked about, the increase in kayaks and particularly stand-up paddleboards with kids and others swimming in that area, and the increase of usage of Donner Lake during 4th of July and other times. It's sad that we have to do this, but it makes a lot of sense. And I know that it'd be some probably upset people, but it's probably the right move. The one caveat that I would say in the future, when we go back through a lot of this boating ordinance or regulation or whatever down the road here, is one of the things I mentioned to Chief was that down at that end of the lake, it's very windy. The nice thing about the lagoon is that you can get into a protected area and it's easier to control a boat. If we remove that and people are still going down there, particularly from Tahoe Donner Beach area, it can create not having places. I'm not even sure how to handle this, but this is something we should just know that's going to become possibly an issue that maybe we can be proactive on and figure out some way in our discussion how to create some safer areas where maybe boats could be and whatever that would look like. I don't know what that would look like, maybe something, but just something to think about is it'd make it a lot easier because it gets really windy down there and then you create a whole new bunch of problems and safety becomes a bigger issue at the other end. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? No?
I'll make a motion.
Please do.
I said all that. I make a motion that we approve the ordinance for updating the Donner Lake boating regulations and roping off the, what I'll refer to as lagoon area, outlet, inlet, aylet.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our action items. We're going to move into council reports, and we're going to just do something slightly different tonight, but I wanted to start, and the reason why I want to quickly start is I just want to give everybody a quick update of the town hall last night, because we didn't really have a place on the agenda for that, so part of my council report will just be to report out on that. First and foremost, a big thank you to everybody who participated, obviously Chief Leftwich, Jeff, and myself, along with Bonnie, Andy, and everybody who really helped craft it in the police department that really assisted with that. It was a very well, other than a couple of technical difficulties in the beginning, which I appreciate all of your mad texts to inform us of. That was all very helpful. So thank you, especially the microphone on one. Thank you, Tony, as well. That was also very helpful. But on a more serious note, it was really a great opportunity to embark on a conversation that needed to be had. The vigil last week, Tuesday, was incredibly well attended, showed a tremendous amount of just recognition and support for everything that's been happening in our national dialogue lately. And the town hall was a really great reflection of that. It allowed all of us to gather a ton of information for those of you who watched as well. And to have, it was very much listening. There was, some answering of questions, mostly just to, provide some facts. And
we recognize very much that the entire council wasn't involved in the planning of that, nor in even the ability to participate at that point. So something that I at least wanted to make sure we addressed was, next steps in providing a opportunity for the entire council to chime in on process, to chime in on thoughts, feelings, and with the ability to really listen and chart the course forward. So if it's okay with my fellow council members, this is not an action item. This is just some direction to staff, but that basically you come back to us, whether it's the next meeting in June or the first meeting in July, with just sort of a status update of where we're at and what some next steps to consider might be, and generally an opportunity for the entire council to have a discussion in the same way that the community did, and then to also chart a path forward for the public so they know what's coming down and how we plan to further engage them. I know we have an absolute ton of work on all of our plates in addition to all of staff's, and so I just want to respect everybody's workload and resources and ability to get this done in a professional way and in a way that respects what we've already started. So it might be 2 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, but no, it is on all of our radars, and it will show back up at a future agenda where we'll chart a path more forward. If anybody has any questions on that, absolutely, happy to take them, or if you'd like to reflect in your own member reports about sort of what you're seeing and hearing as well out there. Did you want to add something? No. So I'll just stop there because I just wanted to sort of at least make sure we address that. And since I was the one present there, I felt like I should do it. My only other real major report is we did have a TBID meeting last week. They are most likely proceeding to some form of renewal, at what levels, and other contracts and other items still mostly getting hashed out, and those will be coming back to probably council as well sometime in the next month, I think, right? Month or so. Yeah, we're sort of waiting a little bit on them. And otherwise, just obviously a lot of action. So I've just been doing my part, but nothing any more official or other meetings that I can think of, although I'm sure there were some. With that, how about we start with you, Councilmember Tierman, if you have anything to report out on that front. And I'm very happy to answer questions if we want to have a informational dialogue. Obviously, we're not taking action or providing any other direction at this point because it's not an agendized item, but we can keep, Andy will cut us off if we say too much at this point, so.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So just to be clear, we're doing regular council reports
just
right now? Or?
Regular council reports,
okay.
Just kick it up. I just wanted to open with that one. Just,
okay.
I know there's a lot of questions. I also wanted to provide you guys with what at least I perceive as the next steps. And if you all have others, that's totally fine. I basically just wanted also staff to hear that, we'd like to see this back in front of us within a 4-week time frame so that we can all have a chance to chime in on what those exact next steps might look like.
Okay.
Simple as that.
As far as the town hall.
This was in relation to the town hall happening yesterday at 5 o'clock. Yes. It is recorded and you can watch it at TTC TV. Probably, yeah, that's where it is, right? Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Judy. I did do a virtual ribbon cutting at Frischman Hollow, too. Yes, I did do that. That was, I don't even know what day that was. That was someday last week. That is also on Vimeo. So congratulations to them. That's going to be a great project moving forward. And we did a totally virtual ribbon cutting with no action taken on the Stockrest Springs roundabout. And what else did we do? Donner Pass Road, Envision DPR. Thank you all. Sorry, it's been a long week. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll start with with just a few comments about the town hall, since you just touched on that. I did tune in last night, and I thought, I agree, it was a very important step. Open dialogue about critically important issues in our nation and our community. I think it's a good thing to discuss. It was a good thing to have community input. And I, too, will welcome the opportunity for our council as a whole to weigh in, to discuss the community input, to discuss the issues as they affect our community. And so I'll look forward to that when it does come back, either later this month or sometime in July. So I thank the community for really coming out. We had, I don't know, how many hundreds of comments coming in? 190. Okay, so yeah, close to a couple hundred. So really speaks volumes about who we are again as a community and how much we care about what happens here and what happens, nationwide. So the other important thing that happened over the weekend, a little bit of normalcy, which was Truckee Day. Truckee Day on June 6th, which also was the 76th anniversary of D-Day. So first Saturday in June, I think I was able to man one of the check-in stations downtown and understand that we had a record number of people who signed up for the event, over 1,000. I think in years past, 700-800 volunteers. To get over 1,000 in a year like this is truly amazing, and it's incredible to go around town and see how everything is spotless and clean. And it'd be great if we could keep it that way but we do have the TLC, the Truckee Litter Corps, on the heels of this, help out. So that was then, and I did, I don't know if you say participate, but watch the virtual Envision DPR and the roundabout ribbon cuttings. I recall a year ago when we were all out there to kick it off. So beautiful projects, beautiful new infrastructure for Truckee. Dan and your team at Engineering Public Works, a lot of kudos to all that hard work. So that's my report.
I was unable to attend the town hall last night. I had client meetings that book out weeks in advance, so I will be going in to listen to the recording. I do appreciate the involvement of the community and look forward to having some dialogue around how we're going to be moving forward. I know that we're in some very, very sensitive times right now, and really appreciate the courage and ability of everybody to have their voice and their opinion. I brought my kids. We had a great time picking up trash in Sierra Meadows on Truckee Day. There was one man-size extra large t-shirt left, so my son is very excited for his new sleep shirt. So it's amazing how much fun it can be picking up garbage when you're 5 years old and 7 years old. And I'm so proud to be part of a community where we all kind of pitch in and contribute however we can. I was online. I was on Facebook to participate in the virtual ribbon cuttings. I tried to share it, but I couldn't find the video. I'm not very good at Facebook. So I did my best to attend that one.
Thank you. It's all good. It's still there. Councilmember Commendatore, go ahead.
Well, it's been quite a couple weeks, as we've all said. I have in the normal business world has Nevada County COVID Business Task Force. The last couple weeks, I attend that on a weekly basis. And much of what we're talking about, or they're talking about or presenting on that, is we as a town are kind of already there and sometimes a little ahead of it. But it's good to be part of it and good to see what the rest of the county is doing. Truckee River Basin Water Group as well. We had our second virtual meeting, and it was pretty effective. It's pretty good, and they're doing a good job of keeping that moving along. I did attend virtually last night with everybody else, and much of which has been said already. I agree that this conversation as we move forward. And that's the biggest thing I want to underscore is that someone said to me, and if you drive a car, the windshield's bigger than the rearview mirror. And we got to look back and pay attention to what happened in the past, of course, but moving forward is where we're going, and that's what we need to be doing. And having the dialogue last night, no matter where anyone feels it was good or bad, it was a step forward. And whatever else we do, we go forward, we need to do. I would like to say that, I saw when I walked in today, I think I walked in before most everybody, I'm not sure. Anyways, there was a family outside who brought a sign to the Truckee Police Department, appreciation for what they do and what they have been doing and what they're going through and the struggles that they have as well. They're humans. They, as a group, have imperfections just like all of us do. And I thought it was very moving and very important to see that there is another side. There are other people supporting the police, our local police department at least, and they are a very important part of our town. And I just wanted to point that out, that it is happening and it is important, and I do support those guys. And I thank them every day for the things they do, because when they strap on their badge, show up for duty, they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're going to make it back to their family that night, that day, and but they do it for us. They do it for the community. That's it.
Thank you for bringing that up. I think that was an important thing to bring to this closing conversation, because I too really appreciate what our police do for our community and all that the chief has done for our community as well. We wouldn't be the town that we are today without that whole part of our workforce and of our unified town of Truckee. And I personally want to thank the chief for all the work that he did with me in preparing the statement that I put out prior to the vigil, just about the fact that I could see the momentum building in our community and the importance that there was, that we were willing to have a dialogue. And we showed that we are, and that we're willing to do it quickly and responsibly. So I really appreciate everybody that did that. And that's just on that. I think the only other thing I would say is we did make a commitment to do a specific meeting with our Latinx community. And so I would like to just add that to my hopes of the next step, that we would see some sort of progress on that. So last week I did attend the vigil, and with what appeared to be well over 800 or so, or maybe 1,000 of our neighbors, very galvanized but very respectful neighbors. And I passed out Town of Truckee pins. I passed out over 200 of them. And the people that took them were really so proud. I think in that moment, we were all so proud to be Town of Truckee residents. And I just want us all to pause and reflect on that, because it has been a tumultuous week. And I don't want to lose sight of that. There is true pride in our community. In that moment, that's what I took away. That was my biggest takeaway, is how proud people were. Other things that I did last week, a couple of radio interviews based on all of this. JD's been very interested in it, of course. So 101.5 has done a couple of interviews about the vigil and about the town hall and about the process that we're going to go through. And then I also was honored to be able to be one of the the Truckee Day champions for Donner Lake. And it was amazing. It was the first time in my 7 or 8 years of being Donner Lake champion that I assigned a street I assigned every single street. So there was not a street left that didn't have somebody going to it. And there's a lot of tiny streets. So that too just fortified how proud I am to be part of this community. The Climate Vulnerability Task Force held its first meeting in a few months, and that was really nice. It was still a virtual meeting, but it felt so good to work on something productive. I'm really looking forward to getting that draft out to the rest of you, because it's going to be a really phenomenal document and plan. And then lastly, I had just an absolutely amazing conversation with a young lady of the name of Olivia Mason from the Tahoe Expeditionary Academy. And she's just very interested in what we're doing in our town government and with our environment. And I think we'll be hearing from her again in the future. And that's it.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. That definitely, I think, touches on so much of what we've been doing here. So just want to give my thanks to everybody listening, everybody watching, all of us up here, everybody in the building, and of course, just all of our staff in general to make this thing move. So with that, we are going to adjourn to our closed set. We are going to adjourn to our continuation of our closed session that was happening before this meeting. So that's what we're doing, right? Yes. Thank you.